Ladies and gentlemen, from Starworks in Wolverhampton, Golden Ticket present 3 from your rounds in the amateur bantamweight division. Sponsored by Queen Square Tattoo Club. And in the red corner, record 4 wins and 2 defeats. Winning at 61 kilograms. Representing on 12 in Denmark, Mack Promanee. And his opponent flies at the blue corner, undefeated with 3 wins, no losses. Winning at 61 kilograms. Representing UTC in Birmingham, Richard Kallos. Your referee judge, Mr. Harvey Harrah.
This is one of the semifinal brackets of the GTFP Bantam Amateur Weight Tournament. Mack Promanee 4-2, fighting in the black Hayabusa shorts, fighting out of Artois, Denmark, taking on Richard Kallos. UTC Birmingham 3-0, with all 3 wins coming by way of first-round submission. We got a scrapper versus a grinder here.
This is going to be a huge fight. We saw Mack Promanee last year at Golden Ticket. We were very impressed with him in the amateur flyweight tournament. Arguably, you know, the biggest thing that went against him in that tournament was that the weight cut was just murdering him before the fight. He's moved up 10 pounds. He looks a hell of a lot better from where I'm sitting. Let's see if he can put that grinding style of fighting that he brought to the amateur flyweight ranks to the amateur bantamweight ranks. Let's see if he can carry that strength up with him.
Well, I'm thinking that was one of the way he fights is so draining. That the additional fight to lose 10 extra pounds as an amateur was a fight too much. At 135, both he and his team are saying that this is the ideal weight for Mack Promanee. But we get a chance to see it against a very tough Richard Kallos.
Good short shots in the clinch there from Richard Kallos. You know, those weight cuts amateur level, it's just not worth it, you know, unless you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds. And even then, you know, some would say, why bother?
Absolutely.
But that's not what the amateur division is about. It's about getting the cage time in, learning your strengths and weaknesses. And like you said, Steve, it's just another battle that doesn't need to be fought at this level.
He was having a fight before he actually got in for the fight. So, but what I'm impressed here with Richard Kallos, again, he's 3-0 MMA. He's going to have a well-rounded game, but we know Mack Promanee's grappling, his wrestling is really on point. Kallos doing very, very well controlling.
Absolutely. You know, Promanee was always going to bring that grinding, grappling style, and you know, to see him up against the fence, fending off takedowns, was perhaps something we didn't expect here in the first round. You know, both guys trading positions on the fence.
Oh,
beautiful
nice
trip there.
Kallos in the top position now, and let's be fair, one of the positions we did not see Mack work out of a lot was from his back in the fights that we've seen him here. Again, interesting to see what Kallos chooses to do, whether he goes looking for a submission or whether he looks to posture and land some ground and pound.
Yeah, Kallos needs to be careful of the sweep with that ankle there. Oh, just uses the leg to climb up his man.
Has he got his hands locked together for the double leg? Oh,
doesn't look like he needs it there. Just brute force on that takedown attempt from Mack Promanee.
Kallos, though, stayed strong and kept his balance wonderfully well. I got to be honest, I was expecting Kallos to be a little bit rougher, a little bit kind of looking at the shots and throwing things, but yeah, he's fighting smart at the moment.
Obviously, the problem when you're fighting a guy like Mack Promanee is you can't really give him an inch because he's going to take a mile every time, and that mile might be a minute and a half with your back on the cage or a minute and a half on the mat, and all of a sudden you're fighting an uphill battle to win the rest of the round. So it could become a case of when does Richard Kallos take that risk as we move into the second and third round. But both guys looking very composed here.
And a tough round to score.
Absolutely a tough round to score. You know, we saw both guys have periods of control on the cage. We saw takedown attempts from Mack Promanee, but it was Kallos that got the trip. It's going to be a very interesting one for our judges to pick apart. It's going to likely come down to, you know, perhaps who had the more time on the cage, and that's something that our judges will be taking, you know, a much bigger note of than we will here at cage side. But you know, this could be a round and maybe even a fight that's just won on a couple of seconds of control here or there. Obviously, we have effective striking and effective grappling as our two main criteria. If it can't be picked apart on that, and most fights can, then we move on to cage control and, of course, aggression.
Cage doors closed as we get ready for our second of 3 rounds here. Touch of gloves, and here we go again.
A high guard from Richard Kallos here, perhaps anticipating a strike coming in from Mack Promanee. That's not really been his modus operandi so far.
Lots of flinching and faking here by Kallos. Keeping that guard up nice and high, though.
I just wonder if he's perhaps trying to bait Promanee, and Promanee just immediately looked down at the ankles and then threw the punch there, trying to throw his man off. Kallos really has his
eye poke
stare
there
fixed, and very unfortunate there. You know, we see it in mixed martial arts sometimes, and the referee just going to give Mack Promanee as much time as he needs to recover. You know, there's no 5-minute time limit here. It's going to be a case of the referee will give him ample time to see if he can see. If he tells the referee he can see, the fight will continue, and that's where we are.
There was no intention, I don't think. There, the fingers might have been. It wasn't. He wasn't looking to. And fair play to Kallos. He pulled back the moment that he realized he'd landed the illegal blow. Didn't even bother chasing up until the referee stepped in.
Well, yeah, the unified rules were amended fairly recently, and moving your hand forward with an open palm is now deemed a foul. So you shouldn't be moving your hand forward with outstretched fingers. Still, it happens. It's instinct. It's one of those things that the mixed martial arts glove will always carry with it.
And had there been warnings throughout the round about your fingers, your hands, your fingers, and a point rightly taken, but a warning this time is...
Yeah, I think you'd have to be very extreme to get to that level. I believe I actually called the first fight in the world where that happened. It was about 2 weeks after the rule change came in, and we saw, I think, 3 eye pokes, 2 separate warnings after the fact, and then the fight was called off for the disqualification with the number of points taken. Yeah, crazy. You know, that was obviously a very different situation here, you know, in that we had Richard Kallos just caught his man. Bulldozer takedown.
As soon as he felt that the cage wasn't going to impede the takedown, Mack turned him and drove. But again, Kallos looking quite relaxed off his back, controlling Mack Promanee's arms. Mack doing everything right, though, you know, not rushing, hands are not on the floor. Just slowly try and work himself into a better position.
Yeah, Kallos has looked as comfortable here as he has done throughout the rest of the fight. You know, he's going to find himself in a sore spot if he's in this position in the 3rd round. You know, it's all well and good saying, well, you know, I'm not out of my depth, I'm hanging on here, but you have to put offensive points on the board at some point. We're going to have to see Richard Kallos put his foot on the gas towards the end of the 2nd and indeed the 3rd round if we get that far.
Yeah, Promanee controlling the position at the moment. And it could be this position that takes the round for him.
Let's see what Richard Kallos can do from here. Yeah, we know he's got some submission wins on that record. You've got to think he's going to be at least comfortable from his back, if not competent. He's getting the legs up there.
Trying to get the legs up high. But
yeah, triangling Mack Promanee is, again, yeah, we said before tonight, Steve, some things are easier said than done. He's so powerful, so heavy on top. It's going to be a real chore for someone admittedly built for triangles like Richard Kallos with those long limbs. Yeah, to close off that big bull neck on Mack Promanee. Very interesting situation we find ourselves in now, Steve, because, you know, by my card at least, Mack Promanee's squeaked that 2nd round by the cleanest of margins. 1st round, maybe not. Everything to play for going into the 3rd.
Yeah, another well-matched competitive fight here at GTFP, and I do think Promanee at this weight class does look a fitter fighter. The cardio is not, and there's not as much wear.
Absolutely, and as Promanee progresses in his career, the fights aren't going to get any easier. So you know, again, he doesn't want that second opponent of the weight cut in front of him. He looks much more comfortable. You know, eventually he's going to come up against a guy who he can't bully around the cage and he can't put on his back. He's then going to have to really rely on that gas tank to start pulling his other tricks out of the bag in the second and third round.
Nice stiff jab to start from Richard Kallos there.
I'd really like to see Richard Kallos going for it on the feet here in this third round. He's the longer guy. He's obviously confident on his feet here.
Yeah. Oh, throwing with some bad intention there, winning that hook. And Promanee, though, look at that.
Yeah,
lands a shot, changes the level. This is the Mack Promanee that I remember from the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's exactly what Promanee was looking for there. Richard Kallos has that very high guard, and he was trying to bait his man in. But the disadvantage of that high guard is that you cannot get those hands down to defend the takedown when you're fighting a guy as swift as Mack Promanee.
Promanee now looking to posture up. Kallos working really hard.
Kallos perhaps looking for that wheelbarrow sweep there when Promanee was postured up. Oh, he's looking at an omoplata variation there to take the back.
But he has a bit high up. And
much too high, but could have taken the top position there. Promanee, though, powers his way through. He's now immediately going to the triangle, is Richard Kallos.
Kallos working like mad off his back to keep Promanee off him. And doing not a bad job, but Promanee comfortable in that. You were talking about Couture a few fights ago, being comfortable in that half guard. I would just look to posture up and land some shots now. But
absolutely, you know, he can really eat the clock up here. Kallos able to get guard, but you know, is guard the position he wants to be looking for here? You know, for my money, he needs to be shrimping. He needs to get those hips out, back on the cage.
Yeah, right now
it's get out from underneath Mack Promanee. Time's running out here. Legs going up high again. Promanee's going to have to protect the arm on the right-hand side.
See how he turned Kallos into the head into the cage, making, again, movement much more difficult for the man on bottom. Just little things Promanee did really well.
Yeah, it could be that he's looking for that arm bar just to bait Promanee into defending and then creating some space. Yeah, he's still talking to Promanee in there.
Promanee, though, again, staying on top. Can't be much time left in this round now.
Promanee secured the neck there.
It's just a very smothering attack now, isn't it? Take the shots when they present themselves, but don't give up the position. And this is the first semi-final in their amateur tournament for bantamweight. GTFP8. I'm sure we'll see the second.
Yeah, nice punches to finish out the round for Promanee. And again, we see him advance through a golden ticket tournament.
Yes, Promanee making his second amateur tournament final now.
Yeah, looking like he could be the golden ticket tournament Ironman here.
Amen, very nice. Think he knows it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd be confident with taking the decision if you just put in that kind of performance.
Richard Kallos, though, keep your head up, son. That was...
You know, based on what we saw from Kallos there, I'd be very interested to see him against any amateur bantamweight in the country. He's obviously very sharp on the feet. His defensive jiu-jitsu looked good. You know, Promanee, you know, wasn't exactly searching out submissions, but Kallos, yeah, had the measure of him on the ground a few times there. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, you know, regarding this tournament. You know, are we going to see the other side of the bracket get a bye? Obviously, we unfortunately lost one semi-final yesterday at the weigh-ins, so it's going to be interesting to see where it progresses. But in a few months' time, we should have a golden ticket amateur bantamweight champion. It could well be the winner of this contest. We'll throw it to Ricky right in the cage to find out who that is.
Ladies and gentlemen, the three international match cards that judges scorecards. The judges for about 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. All three in favor of your winner by unanimous decision. In the red corner, Mack Promanee.
Now Mack Promanee returns to golden ticket, this time as a bantamweight, once again in a tournament and once again advancing to the finals.